Yo, so we've got a lot of very interesting things to cover today. So the first thing I do want to talk about is the S&P 500. Now, obviously nothing has changed since my last video as it's been the weekend. However, the S&P 500 will open soon, right? And I do want to remind you that I do really want the S&P 500 to stay above this white line right here, as if we don't, then that's breaking structure. And Bitcoin historically has been very correlated to the S&P 500. Out of everything I cover, this is the most important fundamental indicator, right? Because if the S&P is going up, that means generally speaking, the American economy, basically the global economy, is doing fine. However, if it starts to fall, it is incredibly difficult for a risk on asset to go up, whilst basically, the entire US economy is going down. Now, I do want to talk about the potential bearish scenario if we do end up breaking this white line right here, which historically speaking has been an area where price reversals tend to happen. It's happened about 3 times here. So, this is a very important zone. If we do unfortunately start losing this, then yeah, it is going to be harder for me to be bullish on Bitcoin, because this basically opens up this entire price range for the S&P 500. And if we do end up going all the way to the bottom of this range, which is possible if we drop back in it, then you can see right here, right, that's already 2 bottoms basically at the bottom of this range. This high right here was a lower high. Realistically, this could be the starting sign of a downtrend for the S&P 500. And if this does start to happen, then obviously it's going to be incredibly bad for Bitcoin. Now, I do want to take a second look at the cyclic polygamma band indicator. So like I said in my last couple of videos, this has been very useful at picking bottoms, right? So it's not perfect, but generally speaking, if you buy in and go long when price touches the green band right here or gets close to it, generally speaking, those are good prices to go long at and expect major moves to the upside, historically speaking, right? So I've gone ahead and I've actually added these orange squares for when price almost hit the green band, and these white squares for when price actually hit it, right? And you can see every time price hit it or almost hit it, generally speaking, that was a pretty good low, right? And yeah, someone did point out that, hey, this true hit right here wasn't the exact bottom, but we did have multiple hits right here that also turned out to be the bottom. And even if you bought price down here, right, at this hit, even though the market did go lower, generally speaking, price was down from 1,100, you buy in at 280. Realistically, that's probably like the closest you are going to get to a bottom, right? This is a very good buy in generally, right? So it's not perfect, but generally speaking, historically, if you just bought and longed every time this was hit, then you'd be smiling, right? So what I'm trying to say is that even though this was hit, it doesn't mean for sure this was an all-time low. For me, when the polygamma band gets hit, it means that generally speaking, right, if you're a long-term investor, long-term trader in Bitcoin, these are generally good areas to buy in and go long. Once again, not financial advice, this is for me, but yeah, that is what the polygamma band shows. It doesn't necessarily show the true bottom of the cycle. So honestly, I would not be too surprised, right, if we do get that S&P crash through this support and we start heading to the bottom of the range and a true downtrend starts forming, and maybe we get another huge S&P 500 crash like we got down here. It wouldn't surprise me, if Bitcoin does make a lower low, right? So for me, for a big bottom to form that I can be very confident in, I do want to see the gamma band get hit and also the S&P 500 rocketing up, right? Both of these two things need to happen. If we get one without the other, then it could mean that that was a local bottom for Bitcoin, and we could still go down lower. That's why I'm so stressed and I keep repeating that I want to see the S&P 500 hold structure. Now, if you haven't already, be sure to sign up to the exchanges I have listed down below and claim the huge bonuses I've gotten for you guys. So for Bybit, you can claim up to $30,000 $1,000, and this is money you can use to put in trades. Weeks, which is a new exchange that popped up that I'm seeing many people trade on. I've managed to get a pretty good deal for you guys. And MEXC as well. Now, there has been some FUD going about for MEXC, so be careful. Like with anything in crypto, don't fully trust any centralized exchange. However, this just has a ton of coins to trade on leverage, so I do still find myself using MEXC, but yeah, I wouldn't keep too much money on MEXC, at least until the FUD clears up about it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon when the stock market opens, and yeah, we can reevaluate.